Hello, friends. It's Chapo. We can do, and then hopefully the Sanders campaign can do, is really, really hammer home and emphasize just how many times over his career Joe Biden has tried to cut Social Security.
Yep.
And he brags about it. That's the good thing. There's
Yeah.
tons of video of him talking about how really committed he is to the concept.
I mean, he was basically all on board with Paul Ryan's
He
budget
said
plan.
Paul Ryan
Yeah.
was right about it.
Paul
Yeah.
Ryan was right about Social Security. And, you know, he's like, this is, again, he thinks it's a feather in his cap. So I think it's just a matter of amplifying, or particularly for, you know, those, I guess, older voters who are wary about Bernie or whatever. Just remind them, Joe Biden's going to come for your fucking retirement.
It's worked in the past. You know, it's what helped break Bush's back. And way more, honestly, if you look at it, probably more than Katrina was going after Social Security.
Yes.
So, yeah, make that shit. Yeah. I mean, you don't really have to do it now yet, but you're going to have to do it soon. Focus on that.
But focusing on his buffoonery isn't going to work.
No, because
He's adorable.
No, because that's why people like him.
Yes, it's
And
like it makes him seem like Ralph Wiggum.
Well,
It's
and
like you
also
like
his,
him.
his supporters are all old people too,
Yeah.
and they're doing that too. They're spazzing
yeah.
out at dinner.
It's the daughter. It's his daughtering base.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like they're like, look at him. It's like, well, I don't understand what's wrong with what he's saying. Yeah.
I remember Corn Pop. I was friends with him too. How about
He
that?
was the scourge of the pool in the Delaware. I remember that guy. We lived in fear of Corn Pop.
like the Felix version of Joe Biden, like, makes me like Joe Biden.
Yeah. Like the onion thing. That's the problem.
You know, I know. And like, however, though, Felix has suggested that, and you know, to the Sanders campaign out there, they should considering hiring Felix to do debate prep as Biden
Yes.
for Bernie
Yes.
for the next one.
Yeah.
Because like that's, you got to stay on your toes with him. Come on, man. Come on, man. You just have to be ready. It's like, how do you sort of Aikido whatever, just like a totally unpredictable mind fart or because again, because his mind is decaying, he just sort of lives in the past. You sort of regress. Yeah. You only think about being, you know, times that you've had decades ago because the present is just a total
it's
haze.
just
to
And
you.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. The second he says, "Come on, man,"
Come
I'm
on.
like, I want to give him a break.
Am I being too much of a prick here to say that we shouldn't pass legislation to just melt the poor people into fucking beef tallow? Because he said, come on, man.
Yeah, that's what I would say if I got confused.
Yeah. You walk into the wrong bathroom.
know what I
Come on,
mean.
man.
But yeah, like I said, 1 month ago, before shit gets real. I mean, shit is real right
Yeah.
now. Shit is real right
very
now.
real.
Hit the ground running.
We're hitting the ground running. I know. I've seen from a lot of our listeners, or that are many of you are going to Iowa or New Hampshire, and you know, yes, more of that, please. But I think we're at the point where there's only 4 candidates now:
Yeah.
Biden, Sanders, Warren, and Pete. Would you any of you disagree with that? Is there
I think that's where we're at. Yeah.
I mean, there's an outside chance someone like Klobuchar, and I mean, I guess she's one of the last people still doing this, could get like, I don't know, 3rd place in Iowa.
And then have everyone focus on that as a
maybe
surprise
that's a
showing.
springboard to something else. And as well, because a lot of people are going to drop out between Iowa and Super Tuesday pretty quickly. The, various undecided people, they're going to have to coalesce around someone. And Bloomberg's whole campaign strategy is skip all 4 of the early states. He did not qualify for the Nevada caucus, and flood the airwaves with billions of half of fucking $100 million so far. Probably up to $100 million on these fucking campaign ads in the Super Tuesday states.
Oh my God! Did you guys see the story about how Bloomberg's thing is? He says, "I'm going to make the West Wing open plan."
Yes.
And I'm going to stand. He says,
That
"I
is
will
the
never
most-
sit. I
yeah.
will stand all the time. And we're going to have an open plan White House."
Yeah.
Jesus fucking.
Okay, so can I
Christ.
just say
Literally, when
this-
people, by the way, like talk about like, usually I roll my eyes at like the whole like coastal elite, New York, whatever, because it's like obviously this city is full of all kinds of people. But when you see shit like that, you do have to be like, oh yeah, he has New York brain poisoning, where he's like, we're gonna make it open plan because you should be with the team.
Yeah,
and
he
it's
says,
like,
"I'm gonna-"
even though he's an older kind of like bajillionaire, he still has that like tech brain that has infected his brain
It's
already.
pretty well known that Bloomberg is a horrible boss. He is a miserable fucking tyrant. He is
tyrant.
the parody of a shitty boss that you get at an entry-level job who micromanages you and forces you to dress in a certain way and has all these like weird restrictions. I've been in the Bloomberg office building.
You've been in the
You're
terminal.
excited?
You've been inside the terminal.
I jacked it in the terminal.
It was like Tron, but
Virgil slid like a VR visor over his eyes and just goes, I'm in.
So it's a pretty fucking soul-crushing place in the sort of way that we talk about on this show. That's, a little more subtle, than it's easy to talk about. And I really kind of wonder when that big story is going to come out, knowing that he's pissed off probably thousands of employees.
Well, this is one of the things I think they fucked up with really bad with Trump, like the Dems did, where what did they decide? Who did they decide they were going to use to show that Trump was a bad boss?
Architects.
And a beauty queen. They could have used so many fucking hotel maids. The man runs casinos.
Yeah.
And instead of choosing those women and men, I worked in a hotel. I've never seen a male maid. But still, like, instead of using those people, they went for architects, pity the benighted architects, and a fucking beauty queen.
Did you guys see the story about how like Bloomberg has like quietly tried to make amends or like apologize?
Yeah, for the stop and frisk.
Well, he
is
not just
doing
stop and
that.
frisk, but like his horrendous record of the way he's treated female employees and executives at his companies.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
The famous
Including the-
quote where the woman...
Including one woman who, when he found out she was pregnant, he told her, "quote, kill it."
Kill it.
Bloomberg's an our child-free poster.
Your crotch
He's
spawn.
going to be walking around the open office and it's just a picture of a child on someone's desk. Get rid of that crotch spawn. You ruined the costumes I spent hours
They're
making.
gonna spit up on the terminal and get their child diseases in it.
Let me ask you guys this, though. Because, Bloomberg is just sort of out there, like I said, spending hundreds of millions of dollars. And, like, I don't watch TV, like, so I never see these ads.
I do love that he's spending the money.
But people, apparently, if you just turn on, like, local news, like, you'll see 3 of these ads in, like,
I see a lot of Steyr ads.
I see Steyr ads as well, but
They're both
Chris
doing-
said he saw one, right?
I already talked about this. Yeah, it was Sensible Solutions. We're gonna surprisingly big centerpiece of the ad was we're gonna raise taxes on the risk, and then also I was just waiting for counting down from the moment the ad started. Clips of 9/11.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Nothing.
Stealing 9/11
Yeah.
valor, being like, yeah, I was a mayor of New York at a totally different time.
oh, you mean Bloomberg?
Yeah, Bloomberg.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, not the Steyr. I haven't seen a Steyr ad.
I've seen the Steyer ads. His thing is term limits now.
Term limit.
It was impeachment, and now obviously
Okay.
that's a dead dog.
Yeah.
So now he's like term limits, which honestly, I mean, thankfully, it's a smart move in that is a number one like dumb guy political opinion. Like if you don't really have really strong political opinions, but you're alienated by politics, you will often think, well, if they just got term limits, that would fix everything.
Well, it's also like a very classic kind of anti-communist move too, is to be like, well, we're going to delegitimize this election because term limits or whatever, which I would say like I'm sort of passively feel kind of positively about term limits, but it's hardly the biggest measure for democracy.
No, and plenty
by
of places
themselves-
have term limits for the state legislature, and they're horrible right-wing places.
Yeah, and like it's one of those deals where in a context with a bunch of other reforms it could work, but in practice in this system, if you just import term limits, then like the bureaucratic like deep policy state, which is all just captured by industry, is even more influential because the people are there are only there for they don't know enough, they don't have enough time to get any kind
Exactly.
of
Well, and it's because they're all just shuffling around these people like behind the scenes anyways, an institution. And like like the Southern tradition where it was be like, okay, well,
Yeah, the
we'll
wife
just
comes
tag
in,
in my wife
Yeah.
or whatever.
They love tagging in the wives in Washington D.C.
Yeah, the rod is a little deeper than who the actual representative is.
Right.
But the actual representative doesn't really matter most of the time. It's that pool of the exact same interchangeable staffers who are there to actually manage the whole thing.
But back to my original question, I'd be interested what your guys' thoughts are. So Bloomberg's out there.
Bloomberg- yeah, Bloomberg's out there.
Despite the power of the terminal and the open office plan, am I crazy just to like not fear him at all, or just I don't
well,
care?
Okay, so
like,
what he's doing is what he's doing is unprecedented. Like,
Yeah, that's
it is.
true.
It has
That's the
failed
thing. It's a
every
new
other
thing.
time it's someone's tried it, and this isn't the first time a very wealthy person has tried to buy the presidency.
But they're usually cheaper than this. They're not willing to throw it out there.
But the other thing is the efficacy of political advertising is pretty damn low. That's why Tom Steyer,
of the efficacy of any advertising is.
that's why Tom Steyer is spending tens of millions of dollars, and he's still like 5% in the polls, even in these early states that he's targeting really hard. I say that Bloomberg is competent enough to be running a good campaign, and what he's banking on is this: that out of the 4 early states, Buttigieg is just like that. Buttigieg might win something or place highly, but
Maybe
like
win
he just,
Iowa.
but he just doesn't have it. Is the thing. Like he's too young, and he's too inexperienced to do this.
And he has the face that people want to hit.
And the idea is that Biden's going to stroke out or something like that, and then that would leave Bloomberg as the final boss for whoever else makes it out. Bernie, maybe Warren if she catches a second win.
But maybe it's like Zelda, where all the middle bosses are really hard, and then when you finally fight Ganon, it's really easy.
I really think
when you
that's the
first fight
case.
that fucking Lionel.
yeah.
God damn
You're
it.
like, Jesus, why won't you die?
Because Bloomberg doesn't really have a campaign pitch other than, hey, you don't like anyone else. I want to be your default option.
But he's the least likable man on earth.
He
But
is,
here's the
yeah.
problem. The media, as we know, they do not like Bernie.
Yeah,
They don't really like Warren either, but they hate Bernie.
Yeah.
And if it really is, Bernie has all this momentum going into Super Tuesday, which is what everyone's banking on, they're going to want to coalesce and push someone else up. And if everyone else is dying out there,
If he's
Biden
beaten
and
everyone,
Buttigieg
yeah.
and Warren, whoever else, then they'll look at Bloomberg and say, oh, this guy has a lot of money. Fine, we'll go with him and pump him up. And that's kind of a problem because, as we all know, there's a lot of shady fucking awful shit in Bloomberg's history, which he is spending like upwards of $100 million whitewashing. Somebody actually has to do the job of reminding people, hey, this guy fucking sucks. This guy is totally out of step.
The worst of all. He is the perfect bipartisan candidate in that he is the worst parts of both parties in one horrifying fucking
5 foot
chimera.
3 passion
I-
package.
And if Super
I-
Tuesday,
Yeah, I still stand by, though, my pre-even Biden announcing his run prediction that he is the one to beat.
Biden?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was heartened to realize that they have clearly been hiding his degradation for a while now, but I still think he's the biggest one
The
to beat.
polls certainly indicate that.
let's talk about that for a minute because we started the year with Biden at around, who had not announced his candidacy yet, at about 30% in hypothetical polling. Bernie at about 15-20%. We've ended the year with Biden at 30%, Bernie at 20%. That's the national polling. In state level polling, Biden is doing worse. And I had thought Biden would have fallen apart by now. And honestly, I kind of think if we had normal political rules, if we weren't fucking playing Calvin ball now, then yeah, Biden would have fallen apart after months of fucking inane bullshit
Right.
from him. And the fact that his campaign is totally rudderless. The fact that every town hall he just ends up arguing with people.
He just ends up fighting other versions of himself.
But that being said, I kind of think it's a testament to how fucking worse every other candidate is that Biden, who I still contend is the none of the above option, is still polling so high. I do think it's inflated. I do think he falls apart in the early states. I mean, I don't think he wins in Iowa. I think he probably gets at best number 3 in Iowa. We'll see about that. Well, we haven't had a lot of data coming in the past few weeks, and as well, people will start to make up their minds in like 3 weeks, and that's when we're gonna fucking know. But that being said, I mean, I just think he gets beat up too much in the early states. Once people actually sit down and they're like, okay, you got to pick someone because like I got to vote next week. They'll take a look at him and say, nah, I'll go with someone else. Someone else is at least trying to sell me something.
I mean, people, there was an article today about like the resilience of Biden's support, and it's a lot about how he has a very big support among, as we were saying, among older African Americans who privilege electability above everything because
Right,
they
the
feel
electability.
very vulnerable, as they should. And the fact is, though, if they're voting on Super Tuesday or something and he has lost everything, then he doesn't even have that on his.
Right, that's
as
the thing.
argument.
That's the thing. And as well, electability. I mean, there's a reason why Bernie's people are, pushing every single poll that comes out that he beats Trump in a hypothetical matchup because that is the number one issue for voters. And if it's not about actual policy, if it's not about whether or not you can put your correct shoes on in the morning, then Biden's he probably would win that.
Here's the thing. I think you're right that for the people who are not brain poisoned enough to follow or care about this shit in the way we do, that thing, that average Democratic voter, that just beating Trump is the most important thing. And if you believe that, again, it's getting harder and harder based on the media and the people who tout that claim based on their own criteria. It's getting near impossible to say that Bernie Sanders isn't that guy, both in terms of the money and the people he appeals to. Just recently, for instance, in the last week of the year, that guy Norm Ornstein is this AEI guy who's
Norm Pornstein.
he studies the history of Congress, and he's sort of, I would guess, I would say the left wing of the American Enterprise Institute, but he's still a Republican. He was the guy who was the Republican who was willing to say the congressional Republicans, as currently standard, are not a normal political party. Anyway, he was touting some new study or poll that found that a higher percentage of Bernie Sanders primary voters than had previously we had thought actually did vote for Donald Trump in the general election.
I think he claimed, I wasn't too close to it. I think he claimed 25%, which is absolutely not the case.
I'm sure that that's not true. But let's say it is true. You can't say that as a knock on Bernie and then in the same breath say that he can't be the nominee because he can't appeal to Republicans, independents, and swing voters.
Yeah.
Got to choose one.
Which is it?
That's the thing is that they could claim that they're arguing about electability, but all the political hack type people are actually arguing about political aesthetics and the aesthetics of a candidate who appeals to people who ended up voting for Trump.
So here's the difference, though. But as we have talked about millions of times before, Hillary Clinton ran the campaign of trying to appeal to the affluent, moderate Republicans in the suburbs. That Chuck Schumer quote, I believe, honestly, if I had my way, that would be tattooed on the bodies of all of the leadership of the Democratic Party, like in the Kafka in the penal colony story.
Absolutely. Never
but here's
forget. Wear your shame.
How do they actually try to do that? And then in the same breath say, appealing to Trump voters that's gross. These people
because
are unreasonable
Trump voters,
because they're poor white people
right.
and not rich white people.